Welcome to the Seven Figure Leaders podcast. This podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. And there you'll find the link to apply. Today we've got Archie Miles, founder and director of Shorelink. Welcome, Archie.
Hey, Tom. Good to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Best place to start then. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background as to who you are and what Shorelink does?
Well, my name's Archie Miles. I'm director at Shorelink Limited. We are an offshore recruitment company with a team of professionals that live in the Philippines. They all work online, and due to the low national living wage of the Philippines, are able to work for much lower rates than the UK or US alternatives, which is why we pair them with our clients who are a range of different businesses, going from solopreneurs to SME level, to work on long-term contracts to help save them time as well as increase their profitability, since they don't have to worry about high staff costs as they would with a normal employee in-house.
Okay, great. Sounds like it's a no-brainer. Working with you, going to save a bit of money in terms of payroll. So how did you get about starting this business? How did you come up with the idea and actually get it started?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's a real interesting story, actually. So I remember a few years back, I was real young and looking for a way to break into the world of entrepreneurship. I started listening to a podcast called Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. I'm sure lots of people listening will be familiar. And effectively, on one of the shows, they talked about the importance of learning sales as a skill, especially at the beginning of a career if you don't have much going on, which is why I looked for opportunities to do so. And due to the fact that I was quite young, I had the ability, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go and work an internship for a month over in Gold Coast, Australia, in a sales role, working at an outsourcing agency, which is very similar to what I do now. During this month period, I ended up really enjoying myself. Obviously, I was out in a city called Surfers Paradise, which is on the Gold Coast, beautiful part of the world. So it wasn't hard for me to enjoy it so much. And I did so well that I ended up getting hired full time out there to work as a sales executive, where I was mentored by the CEO of the company. She's a lady called Taylor, and she's been a massively positive impact across the board in my life. She effectively taught me so much that I am able to bring to the table now in terms of my skills as well as mindset. And it really opened me up to the value, especially about the staff members in the Philippines and how much they can make a really positive impact in different companies. I then returned home to the UK in search of many different opportunities. I tried a few businesses, ended up failing until I realized that, interestingly, there was a very similar opportunity with companies here in the UK as there was in Australia, when I then set up Shorelink Limited, and we got to work.
Okay. And so what was it that kind of made you actually start it and finally, get started with it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So I began when I came home, started a lead generation agency, where we used our team in the Philippines to contact lots of different businesses, to set up meetings for different clients, working with things like business coaches and other B2B companies. And in doing this, I learned very quickly how to set up meetings and how to get customers and all that kind of thing, which has been really useful for us, obviously. And while I was doing this, I reached out to a chap called Lee. He's actually been on this podcast, I think, quite recently in the past couple of weeks, where he had a chat with me. We ended up discussing my past, and he basically said, how come you don't change this model to go from lead generation to just contracting out the VAs, just like you're doing in Australia? And I thought, that sounds real interesting. It makes so much sense, because not only would the clients get the lead generation services if they wanted to from the team, but they would actually get it at a much lower rate because they wouldn't have to go through me as almost like a middle manager, which is when we started a campaign to actually commence testing that model, and we got some incredible results. And now we're doing it full time, which is really exciting.
Sounds good. And so run me through then. So let's say I'm a UK based, I don't know, engineering firm, and
Mhm.
I'm looking to make a few hires. What types of role could I come to you to help me fill?
Well, it's a really good question, Tom. So I appreciate you for asking that, because very often we actually have to turn down a lot of the businesses that reach out to us, because not every company is suited to work with an offshore agent. I'd say that in terms of an engineering firm, if you reached out to me for a consultation, I'd really just begin with a few qualifying questions in terms of what's the situation, what are the key tasks that you're focused on at the moment that you feel like could be outsourced, and then I'd be able to make a decision in terms of what an offshore expert could look like that would be able to help the company, as well as helping set up their onboarding with the correct SOPs or standard operating procedures that we've got templates for, that we've used many, many, many times from hundreds of different roles that we've had placed in our history.
Okay, so let's say I'm gonna, we have that call and we decide, yeah, there's an administrative role that I want filled by, someone offshore. How would it all
Mhm.
work from then on? What happens?
Yeah. So if we'd had that conversation and then we'd figured out a specific job description, including all of the different softwares, skills, and proficiencies that the right expert would need to have, we'd then commence our first recruitment round, where we'd reach out to all of our team in terms of the candidates that we've already got in our I suppose books. Then we'd find the top three that we had available or most suited for the role, before getting each of them to go through a range of different tests, including English test, grammar test, Myers-Briggs personality test, as well as a specific test task that we can set dedicated or specific to the role, so that the client or you could see what they're capable of in respect to the specific role before you get started with them. Once we've got all of these results sourced, we'll then set up an interview meeting, which is it's normally a real pleasurable experience, actually, where we get to take 15 minutes with each candidate to talk with you and them and ask questions, before you set a start date with the right one, and then get things moved forward.
So you basically do the role of a recruiter, any other recruiter in the UK. So you have your team based in the Philippines. You
Mhm.
do all the initial qualifying, and then you test them, and then you shortlist them, and then you facilitate the actual interview process.
Yes, that's right.
And then in terms of, let's say we find the person that we want to hire and onboard, how does it work then?
Yeah, so following that, we'd then take a short period of time, whether it be 1 or 2 weeks, which we'd call our setup process. So obviously we'd have a start date, and then during the time in between that decision and the start date, we'd work with you to create the right SOPs, which are basically agreements between yourself and the VA in terms of exactly what the role looks like on a day-to-day basis, so that by the time they're onboarded, they're all ready to go as efficiently and as enjoyably as possible for both yourself and the team. I think one thing that I'd like to touch on is that we don't just do this for the efficiency of the client, but also for the benefit of our team member as well. Here at Shorelink, we have a massive focus on HR management and looking after the well-being of all of the team members that we contract out, because realistically, we can't do what we do without them. And so they're incredibly important to us.
Okay. And am I right in saying that this is primarily for kind of long-term contracts? This wouldn't be for short-term project-based work.
Yeah, so I get this question all the time. And for anyone who's out there looking for a freelancer, perhaps to build a website or do a Canva design as a one-off project, I will send them to Fiverr or the likes of Upwork straight away. Whereas for those business owners who are looking for a real long-term team who they can trust or almost act as their right hand, that's more where we come in, because all of our experts are professionals that are looking for long-term roles with companies that can invest into them as much as they'll invest back into the company.
Okay. So can you give some more examples of the types of roles that somebody could actually come to you and that you could fill?
Sure. So, as I mentioned before, we originated as a lead generation agency. I'd say that because lead generation is one of the biggest challenges that businesses face today, that would be why our lead generation offer or lead generation experts are most effective or popular. We also do a range of different roles within online marketing, customer service, administration, basically anything that can be done online can be done by one of our experts. With that said, it's definitely the more mundane or boring tasks that business owners face with their day-to-day that are our most popular to get offloaded at this stage. With that said, we've definitely got plans to go into more specific, higher level roles in the future. We recently placed a AI engineer into an AI consultancy, which was really exciting, and that was definitely one of our more complicated roles.
And so again, just to, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just to be clear about what types of roles, so anyone listening can actually think in, within their business, where could they potentially hire someone offshore? So I'm just thinking aloud. So like bookkeeping, for example,
Yep.
administrative assistant, VA. What are the other ones that you commonly come across, and potentially naming some of those slightly more senior roles as well?
Yeah, so really good question. I'm glad for you that you narrowed me down there. So I would say that admin is definitely one of our most popular. There's a load of business owners these days that are forced with wearing all the hats, obviously, and I think having somebody on board that can help keep them accountable, as well as clear things like inboxes and set clear timings for meetings, can be really, really beneficial to them. Also, marketing assistants. So anybody that's got major plans to grow on social media or build a brand online could definitely use one of our experts to help them with things like content scheduling and video editing, for example. What I would say is, though, as a tip to anyone who's out there looking for marketing assistance from the Philippines, I would always recommend that you are still the content creator, especially if it's your business and your brand. You need to be the one that's actually creating the content or hiring somebody in the UK that can do the videos, and then you'd send it to our team who can then chop it up and schedule it and do all the legwork, as opposed to the creation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And so do you have kind of an idea of, on average, how much someone would save by working with you, as in versus hiring someone locally?
Yes. So there's obviously a big range. What I would say is, so due to the low national living wage or cost of living in the Philippines, the savings are incredible, and so many of the business owners that we speak to can't believe how much they would be saving if they went with us as opposed to hiring from the UK. It can range from, I would say, between 50 to 75%. I mean, I've had businesses that we've worked with reach out and call me up and say, Archie, I can't believe it, but you've actually just saved us 75% of the cost of what we were looking at if we were hiring in-house for this role. And it turns out that the member or team member that you place with us is actually even better than they would have been here in the UK, just based on that.
Wow, that's incredible. Up to 75%. And then do you have like an average number?
Yeah, I'd say roughly 50%. But then obviously, as the roles get more experienced and more expensive, it can go a lot more.
And with someone working with you, do they contract with you directly, and then you deal with kind of paying the recruitment aid or the company in the Philippines, or how does that work?
Yeah. So our goal is all about making the outsourcing process as efficient and enjoyable as humanly possible, not just for the businesses we work with, but also the VAs or online experts as well. And that means that we put a lot of effort into our compliance team in terms of contracts, as well as working in accordance with Filipino law, which means that all our clients have to do is effectively sign our initial contract and then pay our monthly service fee. And that's it. We deal with all of the other stuff.
Perfect. Sounds very easy to work with you.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I definitely we pride ourselves on, just making it as easy as possible. Because for a lot of people, even the concept of outsourcing to the Philippines is quite a new and scary thing. And so that's really why a lot of the businesses we work with love us so much. So yeah.
Yeah, great. And so what's next for the business?
So we have some really, really big goals here at Shorelink. Namely, in the next 12 months, I actually aim to fly out to the Philippines and build an office out there with a team working in-house. That would be incredible. We also have a goal of serving or placing 10,000 Filipino workers into roles with a range of different international companies, not just in the UK, but in the US, Australia, Canada, and beyond. So we're definitely at the start of a long road, but it's incredibly exciting and I can't wait.
Yeah, so you've managed to actually get the business to where it is today without even going to the Philippines.
Exactly. And so far we have a few international clients, but primarily in the UK. And the plan is to make sure that we've got the UK covered as much as we possibly can before going overseas and starting to target international companies further afield.
Okay. Wow. Very exciting. Very exciting. And so obviously, actually, this podcast is all about kind of building connections with people that you can potentially collaborate with in the future. Who in this audience would you like to meet?
Well, I'd say anyone who's out there struggling with UK staff or the rates of UK staff, or even potentially just tasks in their day that they feel like do not need to be done by them, but don't necessarily warrant hiring somebody in-house to do. I'd say it would be really worth having a chat with us. Anyone who's interested in learning a bit more, head over to www.shorelink.io. We've got our video straight away on the homepage, which tells a little bit more about us, some of our clients and what they've experienced. And then if you wanted to have a chat, feel free to use the link on the website to book a call directly into my calendar where we can see if we can help. We'd be really glad to have a chat with you.
Right. So those links will all be in the show notes. Make it very easy for anyone to get in touch with you. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think we've got everything covered. Thanks so much.
Right. All right. Actually, pleasure to have you on and wishing you and Shorelink all the best over the next few years.
Brilliant. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this podcast was created to celebrate the success stories of seven-figure business owners, giving them a platform to share their insights and lessons learned in order to inspire other business owners. As well as that, it's an opportunity to build new connections. So if you're a seven-figure business owner or someone who works with seven-figure business owners and you're looking for introductions to potential stakeholders, strategic partners and clients, I'd love to hear from you or have you on as a guest and see if I can help make those connections for you. Just go to synergycfosolutions.co. That's synergycfosolutions.co and click podcast. On that page, you'll find the link to apply.